Welcome to the American Southwest. There are places in this country where the rules of civilization no longer apply. Vast, empty stretches of desert where the silence is absolute, and the nearest town is 100 miles away. We build highways straight through these ancient lands, wrapping ourselves in the steel and glass of our cars, believing that speed will protect us from whatever is hiding in the dark. But there are things in the desert that are faster than a car. Tonight, we are exploring one of the most terrifying, deeply guarded secrets of the Navajo Nation. An entity that does not just hunt you, it becomes you. This is Chapter 1, The Endless Highway in the summer of 2019. A 24-year-old delivery driver named Marcus was tasked with a cross-country transport. He was driving a heavily loaded cargo van from Los Angeles to Denver. To save time, his GPS routed him through a desolate stretch of US Route 163, cutting straight through the heart of Monument Valley in Utah. It was 2:30 in the morning. Marcus had been driving for 9 straight hours. The highway was a perfectly straight line of asphalt, disappearing into the pitch-black horizon. There were no streetlights, no gas stations, no other cars. The only illumination came from his headlights cutting through the heavy desert night. To stay awake, Marcus had his windows rolled down halfway, letting the freezing desert air blast into the cabin. The radio was scanning through static, unable to find a signal in the isolation. As he drove past a massive, shadow-drenched sandstone formation, his headlights caught something on the right shoulder of the road. It was about 200 yards ahead. Marcus slowed down slightly, squinting into the darkness. At first, he thought it was a large stray dog, or maybe a coyote. It was hunched over on all fours, picking at the carcass of a dead animal on the asphalt. But as the van got closer, the creature stood up. It did not stand up on 4 legs. It stood up on 2. Marcus slammed on the brakes, the heavy van skidding to a halt about 50 feet away from the figure. The tires screamed against the quiet desert road, kicking up a cloud of red dust. The figure was caught dead center in the high beams. It was impossibly tall, at least 7 feet. Its limbs were unnaturally long and thin. The skin stretched tight over the bones like dried parchment. It was completely hairless, pale, and covered in a fine layer of desert sand. But the most terrifying part was its face. It had the shape of a wolf's skull, but the features were melting, shifting in the harsh light, and its eyes were completely human. They were large, pale blue, and staring directly at Marcus through the windshield. The creature did not look scared of the 2-ton vehicle. It looked curious. Marcus threw the van into reverse, his hands shaking violently on the steering wheel. He wanted to turn around, but as he shifted the gears, the creature dropped back down onto all fours. The movement was incredibly fast, completely disjointed, like a spider made of human limbs. and then it sprinted toward the van. Marcus stomped on the gas pedal. The heavy van lurched forward, roaring past the creature. As he drove by, he looked in the side mirror. The creature was not fading into the darkness behind him. It was running parallel to the van in the deep sand off the shoulder of the highway. Marcus looked at his speedometer. He was going 60 miles an hour. The creature was keeping pace. Its long limbs were a blur of impossible motion, kicking up a massive trail of dust. It was not even breathing heavily. And then the radio stopped scanning static. A voice came through the speakers. It was not a radio host. It was a voice that sounded exactly like Marcus's own mother. "Marcus," the voice said through the static. "Roll down the window. I am so hot out here." The creature in the sand turned its human eyes toward the van, and it smiled. When we return in Chapter 2, we will dive into the ancient Navajo lore of the Skinwalker and find out what happens when you let the mimic inside. Welcome back. When we encounter something impossible, our brains desperately try to categorize it. We look for a logical explanation. A man in a mask. A wild animal playing a trick of the light. But deep in the Navajo Nation, there are things that defy logic. Things that have hunted in the dark for centuries. This is Chapter 2, The Mimic and the Legend. Marcus gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The speedometer needle climbed to 75 miles per hour. The heavy cargo van vibrated violently over the rough asphalt of Route 163. He looked in the passenger side mirror. The creature was still there. It was running effortlessly in the loose red sand just beyond the shoulder of the highway. Its pale, elongated limbs moving in a sickening, fluid rhythm. It was not sprinting. It was gliding. And then the voice came through the radio again. "Marcus, please, stop the car. I am bleeding." It was his mother's voice. It was perfect. The exact pitch, the exact cadence, right down to the slight tremor she had when she was frightened. But Marcus knew his mother was asleep in her bed in Los Angeles, nearly 1,000 miles away. The creature running beside him turned its wolf-like skull toward the van. Its human eyes locked onto Marcus through the passenger window. Its jaw unhinged, dropping abnormally low. And the voice of his mother echoed, not just from the radio, but directly from the creature's throat. "Let me in." Marcus slammed his foot on the gas. The van hit 80. The engine roared, struggling against the desert wind. The Navajo people do not speak the name of these creatures out loud. They believe that even uttering the word draws their attention. They are the Yi Lushi. By it goes on all fours. To outsiders, they are known as skinwalkers. They are not ghosts. They are not cryptids. According to the lore, they are malevolent human witches who have committed an unforgivable taboo, usually the murder of a family member, to gain dark, supernatural powers. They wear the pelts of animals to take on their physical traits, the speed of a coyote, the strength of a bear, the cunning of a wolf. But their most terrifying power is psychological. They can perfectly mimic the voice of a crying baby, a screaming woman, or a loved one in pain, just to lure you out of your safe space. They want you to stop the car. They want you to open your door. Marcus did not stop. He reached over and frantically rolled up the passenger window, sealing himself inside the cabin. He turned the radio off. He focused entirely on the white line painted on the highway. Suddenly, a massive physical impact slammed into the side of the van. The 2-ton vehicle swerved violently into the oncoming lane. Marcus fought the steering wheel, desperately trying to keep the van from rolling over. He heard the sound of screeching metal, long agonizing scratches being dragged down the side of the cargo box. The creature was trying to pry the doors open while running at 85 miles per hour. And then, up ahead, Marcus saw salvation. A pair of bright headlights appeared on the horizon. An 18-wheeler truck was driving in the opposite direction. As the glaring lights of the approaching truck washed over the highway, the heavy scratching sound instantly stopped. Marcus looked in the mirror one last time. The creature was standing dead still in the middle of the road, illuminated briefly by the passing truck. It dropped back down onto all fours and vanished into the pitch-black desert. When we return in Chapter 3, we will explore the terrifying aftermath of a skinwalker encounter and what happens when you realize the curse has followed you home. Welcome to our third and final chapter. Surviving an encounter with the unknown is only the first part of the nightmare. The human brain is not designed to process the impossible. When the adrenaline fades, the paranoia sets in. And when you are dealing with a skinwalker, the physical distance you put between yourself and the desert does not matter. The curse is not tied to a place. It is tied to you. This is Chapter 3, The Aftermath. Marcus did not stop driving until the sun came up. He pulled the damaged cargo van into a crowded truck stop just outside of Denver, Colorado, nearly 500 miles away from Monument Valley. He was exhausted, dehydrated, and trembling so violently he could barely hold his cup of coffee. When he walked around to the passenger side of the van in the bright morning light, his stomach dropped. Carved deep into the thick metal of the cargo box were 4 jagged, parallel scratches. They were not from a passing branch or a guardrail. They were deliberate, animalistic claw marks that tore through the paint and dented the solid steel frame. The creature had been inches away from tearing through the door. Marcus delivered his cargo, quit his transport job the very same day, and bought a plane ticket back to Los Angeles. He refused to drive back through the desert. He thought returning to the city would make him safe. He thought the noise, the lights, and the millions of people would act as a shield against whatever was hunting in the desolate wastes of Utah. He was wrong. The Navajo elders warn that if a skinwalker locks eyes with you, a piece of its dark energy attaches to your spirit. It is a psychological infection. 3 weeks after Marcus returned to his apartment in Los Angeles, the symptoms began. The heavy, suffocating smell of rotting meat would suddenly fill his living room, only to vanish a minute later. His dog would stand at the front window, staring out into the busy street, growling aggressively at nothing. And then the voice returned. Marcus was lying in bed at 2 in the morning. His window was open to let in the city breeze. The sounds of sirens and traffic were a constant, comforting background noise. Suddenly, from the fire escape right outside his third-floor window, he heard it. "Please, let me in. It is so cold out here." It was his mother's voice. The exact same, perfect, terrifying mimicry he had heard through the van radio. But his mother was asleep in the room right down the hall. Marcus slammed the window shut, locked it, and pulled the blinds down. He did not sleep for the next 48 hours. He eventually moved out of that apartment, forcing his family to relocate entirely. To this day, he sleeps with every light on, and he never answers a voice calling his name from the dark. We build our lives around the illusion of safety. We believe that monsters only exist in the remote, isolated corners of the world. But the true horror of a skinwalker is that it does not respect our boundaries. It learns our vulnerabilities. It wears the faces of the people we love. The next time you are driving alone at night and you hear a familiar voice calling out to you from the dark, do not stop. Do not roll down your window. Just keep driving and pray you are faster than whatever is chasing you. Thank you for surviving this journey into the terrifying reality of the Navajo Skinwalker. If you have ever driven through the American Southwest and experienced something unexplainable, leave a comment below. The world needs to know they are not alone. If you made it to the end of this true horror documentary, please subscribe to Deep Story, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like to support our deep dives into the unknown. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and I will see you in the next nightmare.